Tonight, the two leaders of parliament, the majority leader, Mahama Ayariga, and the minority leader, Alexander Feyomarkin, are engaged in fierce exchanges over whose government delivered better for Ghanaians. This action is triggered by the minority's recent press conference on the performance of the John Mahama government in the last 1 year. The criticism reached a peak on Monday when the minority leader himself, Alexander Feyomarkin, led the latest media engagement to deliver a damning verdict of the government's management of the economy, the Gold for Reserve program, and what they also described as Ghana's poor handling of foreign relation matters. Let's listen to the minority leader, Alexander Feyomarkin, first.
My respected friend and colleague, Dr. Forsen, must know that these facts expose the government's hypocrisy in telling us that they have prudently managed the economy. The much touted fiscal consolidation has been attained on the back of a sharply cut expenditures for critical sectors, resulting in lower borrowing needs and currency appreciation solely due to the weakening of the US dollar, which has led to preference for massive global investment in gold. Also, the debt restructuring, which we started under MPP while in government, in addition to the commodity export boom in gold and cocoa output, led to the big trade surplus which was recently announced. IMF says that the losses came by as a result of Bank of Ghana failing to protect our funds. How can you give money to Gold Board to buy gold and they make losses because of exchange rate differences? How can you be paying fees that by law you are not entitled to pay? How can there ever be a justification that in rolling out a policy there is an economic cost? Let me remind the central bank that His Lordship, Justice Afre of blessed memory, in the Salome case, laid down the ground rules, especially the true definition of causing financial loss. The central bank must not forget this.
While the minority has spoken, let's now hear from the majority leader, Mahama Ayariga, who has released a response to the minority, and hear excerpts of that statement he put out earlier, just stating their side of the story. It reads, the NDC Majority Caucus in Parliament will in due course remind Ghanaians of the tragic situation of Ghana under the NPP government. The financial system collapsed, the Ghana cedi depreciated in value at unprecedented levels, inflation very high and eroded family incomes. Senior high schools constantly failed to resume schooling because of lack of feeding for school children. Hospitals turned away patients because the NHIA was failing consistently in claims payments. The energy sector accumulated unprecedented debts, and utilities faltered due in part to unprecedented levels of corruption. They go on to state that it is obvious that the MPP left Ghana a dysfunctional public transportation system, and the low carrying capacity of the public transport system was exposed the very first Christmas season after they left office. The majority caucus go on to say that government has already outlined measures put in place to beef up the fleet of buses of the various state-owned transport companies. The improved financial situation will enable the private sector to augment the public buses. They go on to state that significant improvement in public transportation within our cities will soon be seen, according to their statement. They state that when Parliament resumes, the majority NDC side will request for a detailed audit of the One District, One Factory policy to establish the identity of the companies that received the tax exemptions and exactly what the tax exemptions were actually used for. The One District, One Factory policy was particularly outstanding as a monumental failed government policy due to corruption and blatant abuse. If it was that successful, many of the youth that Afenyomarkin pretends to be concerned about would have had jobs in the private sector by now. The government continues to work towards a 24-hour economy by ensuring the creation of a fiscal environment conducive for industrialization and high demand to spur growth in the services sector. They go on to state that when Parliament resumes in early February, the legal framework for the formalization of the 24-hour economy will be passed into law to establish the 24-hour economy authority. They state that it was clear that by the close of 2024, the National Health Insurance Scheme had collapsed. The free senior high school was a total failure as predicted by the NDC, and even decentralized governance, according to them, was dysfunctional as district assemblies became financially strangulated. They state that the collapse of Ghana's financial system due to indecent levels of corruption and financial mismanagement denied funds to these critical social intervention. The statement is quite lengthy and is published on myjoyonline.com. They go on to state with the last paragraph that the Gold Board remains one of the most innovative mechanisms for leveraging our natural endowment to stabilize our currency, and the MPP regrets that such a smart idea never occurred under the MPP economic management team led by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Meanwhile, the minority leader Alexander Afenyomarkin has predicted doom for the NDC ahead of the flag bearer election. According to the minority leader, ongoing undertone jostling among bigwigs of the party to take up the mandate after John Dramani Mahama exits will only make their presidential primaries murkier than that of the NPP.
Thank you to. Meanwhile, no campaigning. They are who say, I saw buying your own preferred candidate, Jubilee House before.
As we speak, Asiodun Ketia says he is on a thank you tour. Meanwhile, he is vigorously campaigning. It seems those at the Jubilee House have their candidate, and the party also has its separate candidate. The NDC must mind their own business. If we don't take care, John Mahama may become a lame duck president by middle of this year because everybody is craving for power. The vice president, as we are told, is planning of making Haruna her running mate. Chief of Staff Julius Debra also wants to contest and make Fifi Kwete his running mate. The majority leader is also making his permutation with Ablakwa. Meanwhile, our friend, the finance minister, is also preparing his running mate to contest. So everything is looking very milky.
President, also prepare running mate. Inti adiano atasa obebia. Yenua Erikopoku, ono agric minister. One kaza wo ministry okra no.
The agric minister Erikopoku is also in the mix. Even though he is not getting enough money to run his ministry, he was very vibrant in the opposition, but now struggling to get enough financing for his ministry. So, for the NDC flag bearer race, it will be very messy. They should rather mind their own business.
Join me now is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Gbande. We appreciate your time here on JoyNews Prime. The minority is right, are they not? That the party indeed has no moral right to criticize them, especially because they're undertone jostling within the party. You agree?
Well, thank you very much, and then good evening to our cherished listeners. I think that basically this norm of Afenyomarkin is a familiar one. And we know why he is doing this clearly. The young man is still pained. He's still not recovered from what he has suffered. But of course, it's obvious because when you lead a regime that is fraudulent, this is what you get. Let me give him the assurance that all the names he has mentioned are persons or individuals who are being groomed by the party to become possible flag bearers and presidents on behalf of the NDC. The NDC currently is led by disciplined leadership, competent leadership, a leadership that has rebanded our party to attract all and sundry, the illiterates, the uneducated, the ordinary mason man, lawyers, judges, scholars. We attract all of these people to our party.
Okay.
You cannot have an iota of balance. What is happening in the MPP today, where an ordinary exercise of trying to select a flag bearer is, full of insults and all of that. You can't have it in the NDC. Number two, I am an ardent believer of the fact that I have a problem with the fundamental readings of Article 66. And that
briefly, if you could wrap that up for us, we'll be grateful.
I think that it is possible that if, the lords who are given the bona fide responsibility to interpret our Constitution finds a reason that President Mahama will qualify as a presidential candidate in the next coming election, I'm an ardent believer that we will support him to become president.
So and the minority and their fears, they're right in their fears that there's a grand scheme to ensure you extend the term of the sitting president. Is that not so?
There is no. Are you saying that when the courts and the lords interpret a constitution and it affirms one position or the other, that becomes a grand scheme? That can only come from an illiterate. And excuse my language, Apenyoma Kings knows that it doesn't lie in his mouth to be threatening judges and to be cautioning judges. If he's a competent lawyer,
okay,
he can join any suit within the concept of the rule of law. And that to go and organize a presser to try and instigate disaffection against government because he wants to cover up for the mess that has inundated his party in their reorganization.
Okay.
And the disaster that is awaiting all of us on 31st. It cannot wash. Apenyoma have tried every means
Mr. Fagbani, we have to move on at this point, but point well noted. We appreciate your time here on JoyNews Prime. Well, away from that, the race to lead the new patriotic party into the 2028 presidential election is tightening, with the contest increasingly shaping up as a two-horse race. At the top, results from 8 separate polls tracked by the JoyNews research team show former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and former Asin Central MP Kennedy Japong pulling ahead. But the race is far from settled. A significant number of delegates, nearly 17,000, remain undecided, keeping the field wide open as the primaries enter their final stretch. There is also what analysts describe as a rising third force within the party, one that could still sway the direction of the race in its final lap. Caleb Ziblim of our research desk joins me in the studio just to walk us through the key details we have. Caleb, you've been doing your digging. What do we know?
Yes, Fosti. So we know this Saturday the NPP is going to elect one of these 5 individuals as their next flag bearer for the 2028 general election. And in the lead up to this, there have been some polls by a number of pollsters, and we've sampled 8 of them. And then they had a sample size of about 140,000 delegates. Now, these are delegates that are going to vote on Saturday. So about 140,000 delegates have been polled so far since last year to this year. And then we had 3 of these polls from the Global Info Analytics. We had 3 from Sanity Africa. We had 1 from Africa Policy Lens. And we had another one from Dr. Evans Dua. So we have 8 polls in total with a sample size of 140,000 delegates. And when we did our when we did a modeling, and we had to take out some of the effects of being biased and all of that. So when we did the modeling, we had Dr. Bawumia leading with 45%, 45.8%, followed by Kennedy Japan with 37.03%. Then we had Dr. Brian Champong with 5.64%, Dr. Yao Edichum with 2%, and then Kwabena Japan with 1%. Now, the last figure here, the 8%, is very important. Because as you can see within the first two, Dr. Bawumia and Kennedy Japan, no one crosses the 50%. And for the MPPs, and for the MPP in their primaries, you need to have 50% plus 1.
So that 8% could be the deciding factor.
Yeah, exactly. So if the 8%, if all the delegates within the 8%, majority of them decide to go with one particular candidate, that particular candidate can win the election. That's between Dr. Bawumia and then Kennedy Japan. But then if you look at the other contenders, we have Brian Champong doing about 5%, Dr. Educhum doing 2%, and Kwabena Japan doing 1%. Now, these votes together can actually result in this going to a runoff. Because if the remaining 3 get significant votes, it's going to ensure that the first 2 of them do not get beyond the 50 plus 1. And once that happens, there's going to be a runoff. And within the MPP's constitution, once there's a runoff, the first 2 contenders will have to go head-to-head, and then it happens until we have a clear 50 plus 1. So the polls are telling us that so far we've not seen a clear-cut victory for either of the 2, but then Dr. Bawumia is leading the race with 45%. But then there's this 8% figure. This is very important because this 8% figure can decide the outcome of the election.
I see. Quite interesting. Thank you, Caleb. Meanwhile, the Electoral Commission says it is ready for the NPP presidential primaries as it rolls out election materials nationwide. The vote takes place on Saturday, January 31, with polls opening at 7 a.m. and closing by 2 p.m. Deputy Director of Research at the ECG, Fred Tete, says ballot papers and other materials will be reaching all the centers by close of day today, assuring a smooth process.
In terms of logistics, so far ballot papers that were printed together with the agent of the candidate has been dispatched to the 16 regional capitals, for which they are being distributed by close of day to all the 276 constituencies across the nation. We've also secured the albums, which happen to be the registers for the delegates. Those things are together with the ballot papers, which has been distributed. Other materials also are ready.
Well, Cabinet has approved a recommendation to revoke all state lands that failed value for money and process audits during a review conducted by a committee set up by the Mahama-led administration to ensure value for money in state land transactions. Speaking during a visit by Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman to the Lands Ministry, the Minister for this sector, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, warned that the ministry will strictly implement Cabinet's directive. He says once the process is completed, public officials will no longer attempt to unlawfully acquire state lands, as the names of those involved will be published.
One of the things we all heard about was that public lands that government had taken for specific purposes that now belong to government, some of them for agricultural purposes, some of them for different purposes were not used, now becomes government property. And somehow the people who have been given the charge to protect these lands were somehow abusing it. We constituted a team led by my able deputy, and we got cabinet approval to address that in the long term. That it will, by the time we finish, no government official will even cross their mind to take public land, because we'll publish your name in every newspaper. By the way, the cabinet has approved our recommendation that all public lands that had been sold are going under review to make sure there's value for money, and process audit was done.
Well, this was a key part of the NDC's campaign in the lead-up to the 2024 elections, and also central to its Operation Recover or Loot agenda. Well, Caleb Ziblim is still with me in the studio, and he has details of some of the state lands that were sold and are now likely to be affected by this move. Caleb, we've been doing our digging. What did we find?
Yeah, so remember earlier last year, when the oral committee, which was led by the current Foreign Affairs Minister, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, submitted the oral report to the president, who then submitted the report to the AG for investigations. In that report, it was twofold. So there was a part of the report that focused on financial irregularities or some contracts and all of that within the government's ministries.
Okay.
The second leg of the oral report was on state lands, and the committee was very heavy on this. And if you look at the value of these things, about $21.9 billion was for corruption and other corruption-related offenses. But then about $702 million was solely for state land that had been looted or acquired through improper channels. So we had $702 million of state lands valued that, according to the oral committee that was at the beginning of last year, was not gotten through the due process, and some lands were undervalued. So the total lands that are going to be under question will be somewhere around $702 million. Now, the reports have not been made public yet, but then before the report was submitted to the presidency, the committee made some pronouncements. And on Newsfile in December 2024, the chairman of the committee at the time, Okudzeto-Ablakwa, came on Newsfile, and then he gave us a list of some of the companies, or some of the lands, that were under investigation, and that the committee was looking very hard at. And the first one he mentioned was the Bulgarian embassy in Cantonment. This was demolished in 2017, and the land was sold to a private developer that, according to the committee, was heavily linked to the NPP. Again, there's a restaurant in Cantonment called Insumunam Restaurant, and this restaurant is owned by the former president's daughter. So Akufo-Addo's daughter, the restaurant is owned by Akufo-Addo's daughter, and according to the committee's work again, the land was not legally acquired through due process. So that land could be under contention. Again, some airport lands, so almost the lands around the airport area, some of them were sold to private developers, and according to the committee again, it's under question. Then we have some lands belonging to the Parks and Gardens Committee and Department, in Accra and Wa, and then finally the AU Village in Cantonment. Now, this is very interesting because according to the committee, the AU Village is a very big parcel of land, but then it was demarcated into very small pieces. And then, according to the committee, one plot in the Cantonment area was sold for around 180,000 Ghana cedis.
180,000?
180,000 Ghana cedis to about 15 individuals who are heavily linked to the NPP. So these were the...
Cantonments.
So these were the lands that were listed by the oral committee before they submitted the report to the presidency. Now, we don't know whether this new review includes all these lands, but then this were the lands that the committee were looking heavily at before they submitted the report.
Thank you so much, Caleb. Now, we can now hear from the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, who commended the ministry for its work so far.
So, again, I just want to sum up by acknowledging the inputs you've made. Decentralizing is very important. Decentralization is not just a joke. That is what solves problems at the basic level, where the life begins. So yes, living in Accra is important, but that's not all there is. So sending the services to where the majority of us live is very, very important. So I want to commend that, that very, very important intervention, very, very important. And so, again, we want you to know that we'll support your initiatives from wherever we are. We will support you because we know you will succeed.
You're still watching JoyNews Prime. We're back with more. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on JoyNews Prime. Tonight, as nominations close for the NDC Ayawaso East by-election, the wife of the late Member of Parliament for the area has issued a passionate appeal to party members to unite behind her bid to retain the seat and continue her husband's legacy. She faces stiff competition from Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Baba Jamal, and 3 other aspirants, even as the party's national leadership cautions constituency executives to remain neutral. There's more in the following report.
The widow of the late Ayawaso East MP, Mahama Ture, Hajia Amina Adams, officially filed her nomination to contest the NDC by-election on January 27, following what she described as a passionate appeal from constituents urging her to take over the helm of constituency affairs. The party opened nominations on Saturday, January 24, to select a candidate for the parliamentary by-election. Spokesperson for Hajia Amina Adams, Bashiru, said, speaking after filing the forms, charged party supporters to avoid actions that could create confusion ahead of the primaries.
We are totally overwhelmed with the massive support from the delegates, the branch executive. I never expected this from them. And I'm telling them this on authority that inshallah, the victory is assured. Ajia is winning this election hands down and no turning back. Whatever they are saying, they should be very careful because after these primaries, we have NDC to support. We are one family under one umbrella. Inshallah, we thank you very much for your kind support. Ajia is really grateful.
The contest, however, is far from one-sided. Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Baba Jamal, also filed to contest the NDC's Ayawaso East by-election.
To those who keep asking why I left my post in Nigeria to return to Ghana, I want them to know that I am not motivated by money or worldly gains. I am driven by the desire and love to serve my people. Therefore, when the need arises, every royal rises to claim the throne. I am here to fight for that throne, and I pray that the Almighty God grants me victory.
Meanwhile, the National Party leadership is stepping in to maintain order and neutrality. Rashid Tanko Computer is Deputy Director of IT and Elections.
Tomorrow, we will move straight to vetting. 28th tomorrow, we'll be vetting the aspirants who have successfully filed. After vetting, there will be balloting, as well as appeal committee will be sitting. Should there be a fallout from the vetting and somebody is not satisfied with the vetting, the outcome of the vetting, then the person can quickly appeal to the appeal committee and they will listen to him or her. So the committee will be standing by tomorrow. We'll clear all these things tomorrow. That is the vetting, balloting, as well as appeal processes.
The by-election is scheduled for February 7, with the elected NDC candidates set to face candidates from the governing NPP and other political parties in the race for the Ayawaso East parliamentary seat. Stephen Mensah reports for JoyNews.
The defamation case filed by the CEO of the multimedia group, Kwesi Chum and Joy FM, against the former Asin Central MP Kennedy Japong resumed today at the Accra High Court. The suit filed in 2021 stems from alleged defamatory statements made against the company and some of its staff, with the plaintiffs seeking an order compelling the defendants to substantiate their claims. The trial had stalled since October 2023 due to multiple appeals by the defense, but proceedings resumed after the court was informed the appeals were no longer being actively pursued. Also in the court today was the assault case involving multimedia journalist Lateef Idrisu. There's more in this following report.
The case, which commenced in 2021, stalled since October 2023, and the new trial judge, Sedna Agbemava, was supposed to adopt the court proceedings and continue the trial of this case, but she was compelled to adjourn the case to the 11th of February 2026 because the lawyers for the defense were absent in court today. She also instructed the lawyers of the plaintiff to notify the defense about the new adjourned date.
Apart from this case, a first defense witness in the assault case involving multimedia journalist Lateef Idrisu told the Accra High Court that although he was not personally present at the alleged identification parade, documents he inherited indicate that the police organized such a parade at which the plaintiff and his witnesses failed to identify the officers said to have assaulted him. Testifying under cross-examination by lead counsel for Lateef Idrisu and the multimedia group Samson Ladi Ayenene, Superintendent Stephen Billy Adom of the Ghana Police Service Legal and Prosecution Department said he could not point to any specific invitation sent to the plaintiff for the parade, stating only that there are various ways of issuing invitations. In his statement, the witness outlined the standard procedures for conducting an identification parade, including mixing suspects with other individuals, documenting the exercise with photographs, recording the date and time, and preparing a formal report. However, no photographs or reports were presented to the court by the defense to support claims that such a parade took place in this case. When asked to state the date the identification parade was allegedly conducted, the witness sought permission to refresh his memory from his witness statement, a request supported by the state attorney but opposed by counsel for the plaintiff. Shortly after further questioning, the trial judge, Justice Eudora Christiana Datson, adjourned the case to tomorrow for continuation. For Joy News, Fatao Bayaga, Accra.
Away from the court, the Tano River, once the bloodline of Techiman, has been reduced to cracked mud and waste, flooding homes, spreading diseases, and cutting the community off from its heritage. In this exclusive Joy News documentary, narrated by Anas Sabit, we trace how unchecked urbanization and climate change destroyed the river and follow a group of young volunteers, the City Boys, as they fight to bring it back from the brink.
Once this river carved stories into this land. It carried canoes, quenched thirst, and cradled life. Its name was whispered with respect, Tano. Today, it is a whisper of what was, a ghost of itself. How did Techiman's beating heart become its open wound? And is there any pulse of life left to save?
The Tano River was revered, and going to the river was very beautiful, and it was very nice going near the place. But now, the river is no more there. I think the river is now a gutter.
That transformation from queen to gutter is not a natural disaster. It is a human-made crisis, and its consequences are being felt most by those who depend on the river for their very survival. Assemblyman for Tanoso, Honorable Zakaria Mohammed, shares how the people here are suffering from this unsafe drinking water.
About 3 or 4 years ago, Tanoso and its environment recorded the highest cholera outbreak during the rainy season, simply because we were resorting to the rivers.
Area head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Osman Young, shares some key contributors to the current situation.
So if you just look ahead here, about 30 meters away from where I'm currently standing, there are a lot of houses which have encroached the riparian buffer that protects the Tano River. And so once people cut the native trees and clear the vegetation, they open up the soil surface to the harsh environmental or weather conditions.
In the face of this colossal challenge, however, a new generation is refusing to surrender. They are the City Boys, and they have declared that the fate of their city is inextricably linked to the fate of this river. Abdulhamid, popularly known as Ice Papa, is the leader of the group.
We as selfless volunteers have taken upon ourselves that we will restore this Tano River to bring it back to life, to its normal shape, to its normal purpose.
Anas Sabit, Joy News.
This story is brought to you by Joy News in partnership with CDKN Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from Claire R41 Opportunities Fund.
Here in Accra, the Municipal Chief Executive of Ladade Kotopon, Alfredo Zni Anyete, says structures affected by a demolition exercise conducted today were put up without the required permits. The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, today continued its demolition exercise at Chado to protect the Peshi Lagoon from encroachment. Today's operation follows a similar exercise carried out on Monday along the Teshi Bush Road, aimed at safeguarding the lagoon and reducing the risk of flooding. My colleague Gemma Apia was at Chado. She filed this report.
It's day 2 of the ongoing demolition exercise within the Ladadikotopo municipality. On Monday, NADMO and the Greater Accra Regional Coordinating Council were at Teshibush Road, where they demolished a number of structures along that stretch. This is to prevent a future flood. Today, NADMO is within the Chado enclave, pulling down some buildings. I'm here with the Director General of NADMO, Dr. Joseph Kayo, who is going to tell us more about today's exercise. Doc, welcome to Joy News.
Thank you very much.
On Monday, we saw that you pulled down several structures along the Teshibush Road. Today, we are within Chado. How many buildings have you pulled down, and what exactly do you aim to achieve with this demolition exercise?
Thank you. Yesterday, we were at Bush Road. Today, we are here. As part of the continuing exercise to free our lagoon and its tributaries of encroachment. So yesterday, we were able to clear the Bush Road up to the point where we think is enough a buffer for the lagoon. And so today we are here. It's a river that links to the lagoon. And then we realize, you see, even where we are standing and doing the interview, you see that place, the trees. This place was covered by trees, just like that place. But me and you, we've come to cut down the trees, and we fill this place for construction work. It's supposed to be a riverbed. It's supposed to be a place for water. The next phase is to clear all debris from the demolition sites. All the rubble will be cleared, and then we can have a clear view of the land.
What happened this morning?
In fact, it's very shocking and heartbroken. Although, like 1 week ago, they were coming here that they will come and demolish this place. But we don't know exactly what they want there. But at the beginning, we thought it was just something that they are saying. Maybe it will not affect us. But recently, last week, they said they will come on Thursday. Then Thursday, they came and made an announcement that they will come on Monday. They were not able to come Thursday. So yesterday, they started the work at other places. Today, we are here, and this morning, we saw their bulldozer here. But even we are begging them, they should consider us. We don't have anywhere to go. Right now, you are demolition, no compensation. Oh, please take this one and find somewhere to live. That one we will understand. But right now, we have, and then there is homeless. Right now, we are homeless. Look at everyone. They are standing there. They are looking for somewhere to go.
We can now hear from the MC for the area, who says the assembly will not compensate the affected residents since they had no permit to build in the first place.
That place is an ecological site. Nobody has been given permits to build in that site. So I think it will be difficult to say we want to compensate them, because I'm not sure we'll have any legal basis to compensate them. It's very difficult. For relocation, well, same thing. Human beings don't live there or shouldn't live there. So I doubt it will be the assembly's responsibility to relocate them. I really can't think about it. But if there's anything humanly possible we can do, I think we will do. For now, it's NADMO's operation, and we can only sympathize that not so much damage will be done to property.